Well, welcome everyone. My name is James Olenek. I am a program manager on the PowerApps team. Specifically, features that I own are well, exactly what we're going to talk about today. How about that? So just to start off with, kind of most people do this. Show of hands, how many people have used PowerApps today? Oh, that's awesome. How many of you are admins or have acted as an admin before? Wow. How many are ISVs? How many are SIs? Cool. Well, I think the topics we're going to talk about today, I think, apply to a lot of kind of the full spectrum. But specifically what we're going to talk about today is some of the administration and governance aspects of PowerApps, Microsoft Flow, and the Common Data Service, which are the services, including Power BI, that make up the business application platform. And then we're also going to talk about how do I go about the ALM cycle of deploying a solution built on top of these services. And hopefully you can take some stuff away from today's session, apply them, learn about some new features that we've rolled out recently, and some new stuff that's coming out going forward. So for the people in the room, which sound like most of you have some background that aren't familiar with these services, really what the platform is, and it's the services in blue below there, is a new extensibility platform that Microsoft is offering. And it's all around extending the data that's in Office and Dynamics today and leveraging the ProDev solutions that you may have already built in the infrastructure you built in Azure to build solutions and automate business processes you have, building a cross-platform mobile application in PowerApps that pulls data in from your field and stores it in SharePoint, and triggering and automating workflows in Flow that act upon that data. You know, maybe they trigger approvals and various different operations behind the scenes. And the idea of this platform is that it puts it in the hands of the business users. Whereas, you know, you'd have to go purchase some SaaS software that's complicated and expensive and maybe can't be customized. Or you'd have to go and work and develop these applications in-house, but you might have a company that doesn't have the resources or the time to do so. And so this platform allows the business users to build those solutions, both at an individual level, a team level, a department level, and also allows even central IT departments in bigger companies to deploy some general solutions for them as well. And what we're going to talk about today is, I kind of call it the journey, but honestly, like every question that's on this slide here, I've gotten asked since we GA'd the service. And I think of it as the journey, and you could probably argue that some of these come in different orders, but here's how I've kind of categorized them, which is the evolution of a company adopting PowerApps and adopting Microsoft Flow and the Common Data Service kind of starts from an admin perspective on first, like, how do I go and acquire this, right? And understanding from an admin perspective, how do I go acquire it? How are my users acquiring it? How do I manage those licenses? And also, how do I know who's using the service within my organization? And then one of the most common questions I get asked, and we talk with customers, is how does security work for your stack? Because you're built on top of this data that's in these other SaaS solutions in Office 365 and Dynamics 365. How do I control access? You have this environments construct that provides partitioning and governance, but how do I leverage that, and what's the best practices around doing that? And what of my data is accessible through these services? And we're going to talk about that today. And then maybe you've gotten over that hump, and now you're like, okay, now how can I monitor? How can I see what people in my organization have done with PowerApps? And how do I monitor that usage? How do I see what they've done or even manage it? And then, sometimes we even get customers all the way of like, wow, that's really awesome. I have control, I have visibility. And now I want to actually go deploy something, right? People and individuals and teams have been going and deploying their own things, but now even centrally, I want to go deploy something for my entire organization. And this is something that even in Microsoft has happened. So, PowerApps and Flow, our teams are obviously some of our best adopters, and we've built a lot of solutions in our teams. But MSIT, our IT department, has also built a set of apps that we use every day. They call them the Thrive apps, and they're building out a new portfolio. And we had to go through all these questions with them. And they went through and actually deployed all these solutions in the very same manner as some of the things I'm going to talk about today. And so I imagine that a lot of your companies are somewhere on this journey, and you maybe have gone through and asked some of these questions too. And so we're going to walk through that today. Cool. All right. So first off, I want to talk about acquisition. And I'm not going to go into detail of what features are included in what, But I am going to talk about how do people acquire licenses to PowerApps and Flow in the Common Data Service today. And this might be a recap for a lot of people, so just bear with me and I'll get into the good features later. But the first thing you have to understand is that a version of PowerApps and Flow features are available automatically if you have one of the Office 365 and Dynamics 365 licenses up here. And it covers most of the spectrum of those licenses. And today, those users who have one of those subscriptions can access or log into one of our clients or websites and use the service right away. And they can leverage certain features within that. But there's also a second way that users can acquire access to PowerApps and Flow, and that's where individuals within your organization can actually sign up for a plan. And this is either in the case where maybe they didn't have one of the above subscriptions, so they went and signed up for the Flow free plan, or in the case where they might have an Office 365 subscription, but wanted to leverage or try out some of the premium capabilities in the plan too, such as creating environments and leveraging CDS. And so they signed up for a 90-day trial of PowerApps P2. And that's kind of the second way people get access within an organization. And it's actually, these different options are where we get a lot of questions from admins around trying to understand how people acquire these individual licenses. And then the last one is where, yes, where the central organization, an admin can actually purchase those standalone licenses that we offer for both Flow and PowerApps. And the Plan 1 and Plan 2 offerings are mostly around, Plan 1 is for users to run apps and flows that leverage some of those premium capabilities, such as CDS and others premium connectors within the service. And then Plan 2 is around admins and developers within the company who want to actually manage and configure environments and manage the cycle and resources within the platform. And it's licensed the same way that Office license and Dynamics 365 licenses are today, which is they're per user licenses and they're managed in the Office 365 Admin Center or through one of the PowerShell modules that they expose today. But one thing that you may not be aware of is that within the PowerApps and Flow Admin Center, we do provide a report to admins that gives you visibility on which users within your organization have actually used PowerApps. And so I'm going to jump over to the Admin Center here. And so this is just admin.powerapps.com, where you can go to admin.flow.microsoft.com. Always gets me mixed up. And I'm signed in here as the tenant admin for our Fabricam, wonderfully named tenant. And what I can do here is that as a tenant admin, I have visibility to all environments and all resources within my organization. And I can go to the user licenses tab here, and I can download the user licenses file. And so this is the first kind of step. If you want to understand, hey, you know that people have been trying this out, and you want to understand who's been using it within your organization, you can come here and download this report. And it gives you an idea of who in your organization has actually come and accessed PowerApps or Flow, and what license they have, and when they've actually assigned it. So you can see here that I have this is obviously a test account, but this gives you visibility, for example, in terms of when people have come in, what license did they have, and then, as we'll talk about later, you can also leverage the Admin Center and the APIs that we have to see what they've been doing. Okay? So that's the first tool and the first kind of entry to the Admin Center, and we're going to go back there. Trust me. Oh, we just did that. Cool. So then I'm going to talk about security, and I'm going to walk through a little bit of the kind of the conceptual model here, and then I'm going to take you into Admin Center, and we'll actually walk through it ourselves. So also with security comes compliance, and the one thing I do want to call out is that PowerApps and Microsoft Flow and the Common Data Service are compliant with 13 plus standards, including HIPAA, the EU model clauses, the 2 ISO requirements, and the SOC requirements. We are not compliant with the government cloud or any of the sovereign clouds yet, but we have reached these standards here, and so I wanted to call that out because that was actually a lot of work over the past first half of this year to get there. But now I really want to talk about something that's core to understanding how you both manage PowerApps and Flow and also deploy applications on it, and it's to do with the environment construct. And environments serve 2 purposes within the platform. One, they are a way of partitioning resources, and every environment is tied to a region. So if you choose, and you are a global company, and you want to have better performance, or you have compliance reasons why your data needs to live and be co-located in a particular region, environments give you that control. And the second reason, and the main reason why we introduced environments, is because it provides a governance boundary. It allows you to define control around what people can do within this environment. And also, one thing I do want to call out is that when anyone in your tenant signs up for PowerApps or logs in, and maybe they have one of those seated licenses in Office 365 or Dynamics 365, when they come in, we provision automatically a single environment for your tenant. It's what we call the default environment. And that's where everyone has the ability to build apps within that environment automatically. And when we talk about how we control access within an environment, there's kind of 3 different tiers. First is what we call the environment roles, and these control what people can do within that environment. And in the default case, everyone in your tenant is a maker in that environment. And what a maker means is that you can put new resources and build new resources within that environment. An admin, or the environment admin role, has control over permissions for that environment. They have visibility over all resources within that environment and can manage them, can delete them, can reassign them if someone has left your company. And so that's at the environment level. It's all around what operations and visibility you have at that environment scope. And then at the next level, there are resource permissions. So day one, if you logged into PowerApps and you had nothing, when you landed in the default environment, you actually wouldn't see any apps yet. And that's because every resource, including apps, flows, connectors, connections, gateways, have permissions on it. And you only have access to what either you've created or what someone else has shared with you. And we actually do the work when you share an app or share a flow with someone to also share the dependent resources for that. And those resource permissions hang off of that resource. And so that's kind of the second layer. And then the third is that if you have chosen to provision and leverage the Common Data Service database within an environment, the database roles control what data people have access to within that data, within each of those entities, each of those tables. And so those are the 3 layers of security that we offer today, and it's kind of how it works. Now, that's the default environment, which everyone gets for free. Additional environments can be created if people have a PowerApps P2 license or a trial license today. And you see today that some people, and we're going to talk about how best to leverage this environment construct, both for managing your organization and also rolling out applications. And when you create an environment, as I alluded to earlier, you choose the location that that environment lives in. I think we have about 7 regions today, 7 or 8. And then finally, and this is a question that we get asked a lot, which is, I'm an admin, and I understand how people build apps. I understand this environment construct, but I want control. I want control around what types of apps that people can build, and I want control over what data they can access. And we provide that in the form of data loss prevention policies, which are policies that can be defined at a tenant level or at a per environment level that control what types of apps and flows can be built within your organization. And so let me just show that real quick. So we'll go back to the admin center, and I'll go to data policies here. And I've actually already started one of the policies. I meant to delete that, sorry. But this is a policy that I've actually built, and it applies to all environments. And you can choose to scope them to a particular environment. And if you have multiple policies that apply to a particular environment, they stack on top of each other. And it's the intersection of all the requirements. But core to building a data loss prevention policy is our connectors. So what I've done here is there are 2 groups of connectors that come along with building a policy. And it's really about categorization. You're categorizing the connectors that are leveraged through the connectors infrastructure that PowerApps and Flow leverage today, which is over 166 connectors. And you're really categorizing them into what you classify as your business data and your non-business data. And what we enforce from our service perspective is that we don't allow people to build apps and flows that span this boundary. So I can't build, based on this policy here, I can't build an app that leverages Outlook data and Dropbox in the same way. I can, for example, build an app or flow that connects Outlook data and syncs it into SharePoint or vice versa. And it's really that boundary between business and non-business today. And this policy gives me that control that people can only do build certain categories and types of apps and flows today. So one thing I didn't, and I bet a lot of you have already noticed through some of the switching, is that my deck today is actually a Power App that I've built. And so what I've actually done, it's a single screen app that actually kind of, as I click, goes through my slides. So one thing I've actually done in my app here is it's actually connected to my Outlook account. And this is actually the title of the Outlook event for this meeting. And I've actually included some people on that meeting. Darshan, I forwarded it to you last night. That was why. I'm sure it just randomly came out of there. But these are the people that it's actually calling Outlook and pulling in the attendees for the meeting and showing them here. And admittedly, this isn't a session around building apps, but one thing that always is kind of a pain for me is I have to take notes while I'm presenting something, and I always end up having a sheet of paper. So now, just create those notes completely overlaid, right? And then I can easily share out the meeting notes and the deck link to everyone with a click of the button. And how this works in the PowerApp behind the scenes is I created a connection to Outlook, and then I have a flow that when I click that button, pulls in all the attendees, grabs the deck link, grabs all the notes, and sends it out. Okay? But I created that policy that said, hey, my Outlook data can only play with a certain subset of connectors. But let's say, for example, I wanted to add a Dropbox connection here and orchestrate between the two of them. And I'm doing something malicious here, stealing some data from Outlook. All right? And I try to add this. And here, because I've set up that policy, or my admin has set up that policy that said, hey, Dropbox can't play well with Outlook, the authoring environment blocks me from creating that. Sorry, people can't see. And it's a conflict. So this is how it's enforced. And the same would go if I tried to build a flow and add that connection there. This is how those policies are enforced if you set them ahead of time. OK? Cool. I didn't really need Dropbox. All right. Cool. See how it's so seamless just going in within this app? So the third category, which is in kind of the category of kind of administration and governance, is around monitoring and reporting. And this is around how do you get, hey, once you've gotten over the hump of, OK, I know who's using this within my organization. I understand environments. I understand how security works. But now I want to know what people are doing. I want to be able to monitor it. I want to see how adoption has happened within my company. And there we have a series of features, both within the admin center and also within some of the analytics that I'm going to show you, and there's more coming soon. So let's go back to the admin center here. And first off, you see, and we'll actually dive into the environments page here. And so here is my test tenant, and here are all the environments that live within it. I have my default environment here. And then I have a series of environments that I've actually created ever since build earlier this year. And because I'm the tenant admin, I have visibility to all environments that exist within my tenant. But what Admin Center allows me to do is dive deeper. Right? So not only can we go and manage the same environment roles that you saw earlier, so I can go and adding someone else as an environment admin is as simple as, let's see here, let's add Frank. Yeah, you perked up now. I'm adding you as an environment admin. So it's as simple as sharing, same kind of concept that exists in Office today. And I can manage, at this level within the Admin Center, the security here. These user roles are because I have a CDS database within this environment, and I can manage those database roles there. And then the second layer, which is I also have visibility into all of the apps and flows within this environment. So in this environment, this has only one app, which is my Ignite presentation. But I also have visibility here of who this is shared out with. So Darshan, I added you as a contributor last night. I also added Mark and Charles as users of this application. And so within Admin Center, you have control over all layers within the environments. You have all layers of that security. You can set those policies all in one place here. Okay, cool. The second part of this, which was the telemetry that I leveraged here, sorry, not telemetry, the analytics capabilities that we actually just launched a month ago for PowerApps. I want to show that real quick because I personally worked on it, and I'm very happy of it, which is we added this preview of analytics within our web.powerapps.com. And the first report, let's see here, let's add this a little bigger so people can see. So this is our first report that we've added. It's a usage report, and it shows, for example, how people have adopted and used this app within Microsoft. This is actually one of our MSIT apps that's being adopted and used. And you can see here, it's actually not extended to everyone in Microsoft yet, but you can see a breakdown of how many people are using it based on the device. And because you can see here, we are a cross-platform solution. You can see the trends of those launches. You can see the dips during the weekend because these are line of business apps after all, and you can see the spikes during the week. You can see what the DAO looks like for it, and breakdowns per player version. And because this is an awesome embedded Power BI dashboard, you can do great filtering. And it's all seamless within the report here, and you get all the power of Power BI. And also you can go and download the data for these charts if you want as well, and you want to review it offline. And this is the first report that we've launched under preview, but we're also working on having a performance report and error reporting report as well. And I'm very interested to see if anyone's tried it, and if you have feedback on the type of metrics, the types of data you want to get back on in terms of reporting. And we definitely want to iterate on this concept. Cool. Going back to the report, one other thing I want to call out is that flow usage analytics through flow.microsoft.com is also being worked on right now, and it's going to be coming very soon by the end of this calendar year. Cool. So again, recap, Admin Center gives you visibility on things that are being created within those environments. You can see all that reporting. You can manage all the layers of security. And we're also starting to add new reporting capabilities. You have the ability to download the user's licenses we saw earlier. I didn't show it, but you also have the ability to, within the Admin Center here, to also download a CSV of all of the apps within an environment. I found this especially useful in environments that may have a lot of solutions, such as the default environment, and you can download a CSV file that has all of the apps within it. And I'll show that a little bit later. Cool. So we did that. And one other thing that the one really cool thing that I've been working on in the past week, which is, we've gone through how you can see all this within the Admin Center and web.powerapps.com, but also all of this can be automated. So what I'm writing right now is I'm pulling together a documentation in PowerShell of all of our APIs. It's actually right here, that are available from an administrative point of view. So everything that you really did within Admin Center, pulling in the environments, understanding, downloading those files, listing those environment roles, managing all that security can all be automated. And so what I'm going to do is next week I'm going to publish a blog along with the PowerShell module and some scripts that will show you how you can actually instrument this and pull in these reports. If you want to have this as automated and you don't want to have to log into Admin Center and you want to do this or pull in these reports offline or have it update over time, all of this, and you might already have scripts today that do this for some of your Office license management, and you can leverage these modules to do that. Oh. And just to show you it's not all smoke and mirrors, let's do it. Cool. So what this script did was number one, it's pulling in all of those reports that we had talked about. So it's pulling in that user license report that I showed you earlier, and it pulls in wherever you want. It can pull it in on a recurring basis. It's also downloading that app report at least this is for the default environment. This has all the apps within the default environment, but it also has the ability to, if I go through here, of listing all the environments. And you can instrument, for example, all these calls across any of your environments. And you can actually start managing your security in an automated way, as opposed to having to go manually do it. And you can create environments, you can delete them, you can manage all of those roles. So the second category of the script, what it actually did was it created a new environment. It actually pulled in all the details and actually added some folks to those environment roles. So it's that new UAT environment. Just to confirm it actually worked. Let's go refresh here. So here was the new environment that was created from the script. What that script did is actually added Jane as an environment admin in addition to me, and it also added some folks as makers. So it added a security group, and it added all users in my tenant as a maker in this environment. And so this ability, this flexibility, allows you to do all those very same things we went through, all in an automated way. And I think it's pretty cool. Cool. And I'm going to be publishing a blog next week and walking you all through that. Cool. All right, cool. Let's get into ALM. We're kind of breezing through this. Let's get into ALM. And so ALM, what is ALM? ALM is essentially managing the life cycle of deploying a solution to production. And this is really relevant when you want to roll something out to be adopted by, it's just more than just you and your contributors for that application. And I've actually got a bunch of questions, even at the booth, over the past week are asking this very same question, which is how do I set up environments? How do I use them? What's the best practice for doing it? And the best advice that I give people is the fact that you should start simple, right? And there's going to be two just general approaches that I'll walk through today. And one is kind of the single environment model. And the single environment model is really it depends on the type and the complexity of the solution that you're trying to build. So if you're building an application and you're updating that application or that flow for that matter, where the data model underneath the scenes isn't changing, you're not introducing breaking changes. So it's leveraging an additional custom connector, or you're building it on top of CDS and your schema isn't changing. And in this mode, you really can iterate and update your app kind of in production. And the way you do that is that every application in PowerApps has a published version and a draft version. And the key difference here is that people who are who have the app under a contributor access, they see the current draft version, which is whatever the latest version is. Anytime you make a change, it updates the draft version of the app. And then once you click publish and publish that draft version, then all the users who are shared with the app as a user have access to that published version. And what that allows you to do is test in production, iterate while your app is in production without impacting your current users that are out there. Okay? And just to show you how that works, I don't need to switch, we're already in PowerApps. So let's say, for example, that I'm in my app here, and I wanted to make a change. And we'll do a small change here. Let's say I wanted to just make this a little bit bigger. Okay? So this has introduced a change, and when I save this app through PowerApps, it now has updated the draft version of the app, while as the published version, the live version of the app is currently out there. And how to visualize this, let's go to the web.powerapps.com. So here's my application in UAT. Okay. And if I go to versions here, you see here that just now, 241, I've introduced a new draft version of my app. It's now been changed. The live version of my app, right here is still available. So Darshan, who's a contributor on my app, can see the latest draft version and work on it, and we can collaborate on this. But Frank, who I've shared it as a user, only has access to the live version here. And what this allows us to do is that when I want to make it available, when I've tested it, all I have to do is publish it, and then that version is now made available to all the users of the application. Okay? It's pretty simple. It allows you to iterate in production. And again, this is if you don't have other complexities of the data model that you have to worry about. Okay? Cool. All right. I really tried to use all the color palette, as you can tell. All right, cool. Now, that's great for some people, and that'd be great for simple apps like my app that just has using my Outlook data. But it's not going to be sufficient for more complex apps. Apps that are leveraging custom connectors connecting to your web services, your internal web services. Or, for example, it's leveraging the common data service, and it's extending schema. And maybe you're introducing a net new breaking change in that schema. And in that mode, and in this model, environments provide you a way of staging your changes. And having a separate environment for UAT or development or whatever you choose to call it in your process, where you can have that vNext version of the schema, of the data model, and you can test your app's compatibility against that. And I guess it was about 2 months ago, we introduced a packaging concept for PowerApps and Flow. So now you can export your apps and export your flow and import them across environments and also across tenants. And so what this allows you to do in this model is use your staging environment, your UAT environment, to test those changes, to test those net new versions of your schema and your data model, verify that your app still works, or add the new versions of it, or add the new versions of your flow. And then you can export it and import it into your production environment when you're ready to take that into production. Now, save and publish, the draft version also comes into play here, because when you import that application or that flow into production, that app is actually deployed originally, if you're choosing to update an existing app, as the draft version. And it will increment the draft version of that application. If you're creating it as a net new app, it just creates it as just one version. And what that allows you to do is, having that draft and published version along with packaging allows you to test your changes over here in UAT, import them into production as a draft, and then once hey, it looks good against my production data sources, then I can choose to publish that, and it's available to all users in your production environment. Cool. So let's go through it, and let's see it working. So here's our app. It's in the Ignite Demo UAT environment. I'm not lying, so I'll show you here. This is in the PowerApps Studio. It's our Ignite Demo UAT environment. And I'll choose to export this app. And again, this is our manual process. It's still in preview. We announced it about 2 months ago now. So I enter a name for the package. Oops. Okay. I also have the ability to configure what operation happens when this package is installed. So you see here that what I've exported is my Ignite app, but it also has some dependent resources. So it has a flow that I've built. So PowerApps knows that my app is dependent on the flow. It's pulled that into the package construct. It also knows that I have a dependency on Outlook, so it also has enumerated that here. And what I can choose at export time is when I'm importing this, am I importing it into a new environment as an update to an existing app that's there? Or when I import it, am I creating a net new app, a net new artifact within that environment? I'm going to create a new one here because it doesn't exist in production yet because I've been bad and I've been demoing in UAT to you guys. Same thing with the flow. And I'm going to select those and click export. You also have the ability to add comments if you want and add additional metadata here. And what this is going to do is it's going to call our service. We pull in all of the metadata for this. We package it into a zip file, and it downloads in the browser. And this is where I sacrifice to the demo gods and hope it all works. Or maybe the Jeopardy music is just playing behind the scenes. So there you go. Cool. So it's just a zip file. It has all of, if you were to crack this open, essentially has all of the metadata that defines the app and flow and all of the other content that packages that up. And if I want to go over to my production environment, importing the app package can be found under the apps page. And I click import app. And all I have to do is import the package solution that I just exported. And what initially it does is it cracks open the package. And it essentially looks at all those solutions, and it looks at, for example, what is already there in that environment. So there you go. So it cracked it open. It says, hey, I don't actually have an app yet that's created in this environment. But for the Outlook connection, what is required is because that Outlook connection is in this environment, I don't actually have a connection that's created yet here. So as a part of this process, I actually have to select the connection that already exists within that environment. What we're actually going to be introducing in the next couple of months here is if you have a custom connector or a connection that's associated with your application or flow, as a part of this export process, we're actually going to pull that along with you. So you don't have to manually go create your custom connector in your different environments or migrate your changes over. We'll pull that in as a part of the package, and you can use this process to move those changes over. We don't support that today. We only support apps, flows, any of the common data service schema extensions. But here I'll select the application, and I'll click import. And what this is doing is based on the selections you made, and here I chose to actually create the app and flow as new as you saw when I selected an import. But if I chose to update it, what it does is it does essentially a validation behind the scenes to make sure that everything looks good. And then it actually proceeds with the import. And if everything is good, you'll see that this is imported within the demo environment. Not the demo, excuse me, the production environment. Has anyone actually tried out packaging? I'm actually very curious. Ah, cool. Excellent. Did you like it?
Yeah, I'm interested in the logic export that's JSON or put into logic.
Gotcha.
There's an option under export that says JSON or zip.
Oh.
Like flow.
Oh, I see. Oh, see, yes. We could. Yes. Anyway, so my delaying aside, the app package successfully imported, and here you go. The app exists within that production environment, and if I were to play it just within the web player here, it would open. So that's great, and that's going to be relevant if you need to work across tenants, which is a very common scenario, or work across environments for some of these more complex applications. But what I'm also happy to announce is that also as a part of this effort to document all these APIs, you will also be able to instrument the same export and import process. I'll be building out those modules that allow you to do this from an automated point of view. So the same process that we just saw happen, and we did it manually through the user experience, you also can have a script for that, which I wrote for this demo today. So it's going to make me do the obligatory sign in. Excuse me here for a second. Cool. So what the script I did here was it's taking the application that's in my original UAT environment, it's exporting it to file, and then it's going to be importing it into the new environment here. And if all went well, the package actually got downloaded here within the output file, and now it's actually going through the import. And so what's really awesome about this capability and the scripting capability is that if you're looking to orchestrate across, if you're, for example, you're an ISV or an SI that have a lot of different customers, you can use these capabilities to deploy with a click of a button and also manage updates for your applications. Because as I mentioned, you can not only during import create net new assets, but you'll also be able to update existing ones. And so, like I said, the same process, so you can see here that we went through import and it took about a minute, is also being instrumented through a script here. And it should work here in a couple seconds. Let's go back to the... Anyone excited about having it be in the scriptable format? So it looked like it worked. So let's go back to our web.powerapps.com. Let's refresh here. And would you look at that? The 5-star presentation app was now imported within this environment. So the same process we just went through from a manual point of view, you can also do through a scripting point of view, which I think is pretty cool. Cool. All right. So what I also want to talk about today is I want to scope this within the roadmap for PowerApps and Flow. And I think we talked about PowerApps for... Sorry, we talked about Flow first. I clicked twice. First, I want to talk about the roadmap for PowerApps and Flow, and we've talked about a lot of this today. And there's a lot of other sessions this week that have been talking through a lot of these topics, but what we've covered today is kind of starred. And what I've starred in the next year is the stuff that's kind of relevant in this admin and ALM space in the next calendar year. So we've talked about how you can export PowerApps and Flows. We have usage analytics that is coming for Flows by the end of this year. One other feature that's coming for Flow is also the ability to view flow activity within your organization through the audit log functionality within the Office Admin Center. And also there's additional regional deployment for both PowerApps and Flow coming. But in the next calendar year, we're also committing to support the government cloud and the Fed on-ramp. So we will be available if you have customers or if you do have a deployment within GCC today or .gov. We're also going to be expanding our functionality in the ALM area. We're going to be adding the ability to create sandbox environments. And this is the notion of having environments that are tied to production and are synced with the metadata production, and you have that ability to spin them up very quickly. We're also going to be adding the ability of easily moving and copying content across environments, not having to go through exporting a file and importing it, but having it as a seamless operation that you can do either through the user experience or through an API. And we're also going to be adding support and complying with all the GDPR requirements and guidelines that I'm sure you've been hearing from a lot of different people today. And PowerApps roadmap is very similar from an admin or ALM perspective, which is the same set of capabilities for administration and ALM are also coming for PowerApps. The one additional thing that's coming, as I had talked about earlier in the day, was the ability to have some additional analytics reports that we're going to be working on both through the end of this calendar year and into next around app performance and error reporting. But the same GCC, GPDR, and additional ALM functionality is also coming to PowerApps as well. Cool. So I also want to call out that PowerApps is hiring. So if you have Greg asked me to put this slide in here. So if you know someone or you're interested, you can download the deck later from the associated with the session. And for breakout sessions, so the ones that are starred here are ones that haven't happened yet. So if you're interested in the Common Data Service, Jono's session here I think is tomorrow. And Greg's session at it's 4037 there, he's going to go deep in terms of building PowerApps and going really deep into what you can do with the formulas within the PowerApps system. And then just after this, I think it's at 4 today, Tessa and Sune are going to be talking around leveraging connectors and building, and really going deep into the connectors and gateways infrastructure that PowerApps and Flow leverage today. Cool. So if anyone has any questions, I'm here, and if you could go up to the mic, and if not. Sure. Yeah, here you go. I'll leave it up there.
Quick question. On the packaging export, does that bring in, like, if there's connections to SharePoint lists, like, does it bring those assets with it?
So not today.
Okay.
So one thing that is definitely on our backlog to support is the ability at import time to be able to configure, for example, the data set that a particular connection is connected to. So when you import an app that relies on a SharePoint connection, you can configure the site and the list that it connects to. It doesn't exist today while we're in the preview, but we are working on that.
Okay, and that would be on the export side?
You probably in export you would be able to configure it or set a preferred value,
Okay.
but you could also during import could override that and select it if you wanted.
Okay, great, thanks.
My question is around the security and the environment maker role. Is there any plan to have a more of a run-only sort of role? We've got lots of users that are not tech savvy, and I don't want them creating apps. I want them running apps.
Right, so that you actually can support today. So
Okay.
if, for example, you're in an environment that you're building in, and those roles are only relevant from a maker, someone who's creating, or an administrative point of view. If you build an app within an environment and just share it to the user, that user doesn't have any permission to the environment, but they can still run the app.
Okay.
And what you can actually see, for example, if you go to, let's see here, which entry is this? 7. If you go to the PowerApp client experience, what you actually see from a user perspective is an environment agnostic experience. So consumers of applications don't have any concept of environment. They just see all the apps that are available to them based on what they've been shared.
But like with the default environment, I thought it added that environment maker to everybody in the organization.
That is true. Everyone within the organization is
And
a maker in the default.
That's where I'm having difficulty.
Gotcha. Yeah, we don't support that capability today, but we can chat after. I'd like to hear your scenario.
So some of our data sources are only accessible by most users through a service account, not through a user account.
Yes.
How would that work in the security system?
Right. So one thing I kind of glossed over it a little bit was how do all of the credentials work? So if I go back to the, let's go back here. Oops. Let's go back to that security slide for a second. So one thing I do want to call out is that connectors and gateways. So whenever someone launches an app or a flow, sorry, where did you go? Oh, sorry. So I just want to talk to you. Is that when someone runs an app or flow, they always run it with their own credentials, right? So when I log into an app that leverages Outlook, I actually signed in and provided those credentials. And that is encapsulated in a resource we call connection. I didn't put it up there, but it's another resource that lives within the environment. And so that app and PowerApps and Flow, we only have access to the data that a user has access to because we use their credentials to pull that data. So one thing that we do have today for certain types of connectors is the ability to have shareable connections. So for example, for SQL, we actually have the ability when you create a connection that you can share that connection out. And so you could create that connection with with that service account, and that app leverages that, and people have access to that connection, but they don't have access to the credentials. They can just reuse those. So I really would be curious as to what connectors and what data you're looking to support, but otherwise we do support that notion today.
We can automatically assess also. We can always re-auth with the service account.
Yep.
For every connection.
Yes. So that's how you would do that, is essentially reshare the connection that the app or flow was leveraging. Sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
So a few questions. One was, is there any plan to create a service admin role for PowerApps and Flow? Because right now you need to be a tenant admin to.
Correct. So one thing we actually support behind the scenes is just that. We essentially, it's not a role that's that you can see within the Office Admin Center. Like you see that there are some custom admin roles for certain services like Power BI and Dynamics. We actually support that behind the scenes. We just don't bubble it up through the Admin Center or through Office today. You can definitely, if that is a requirement for you, you can actually file a support ticket, and we can support that today manually. I know it's something I've definitely had on our backlog, which was providing visibility on bubbling that up and giving that control. And it's something that we can consider and we can do. But we can definitely support that behind the scenes.
All right. And then I had a second question. Since Flow, it's built on per run, right? And then if you're part of the E3, you get a limited amount of runs per month, and it's all
Correct.
pooled. Is there any way to set quotas on users?
No, I don't believe there is today. You can view your overall quota usage across your tenant from the Admin Center. I believe there's already a per user limit based off of the plan. But for some of the per user plans, but yes, I guess the answer is that doesn't exist today. But that is something that we can consider doing.
But you can purchase add-ons if you need more flow runs. We find that larger accounts, just because it comes with every user license, and so they get added up across the tenants. So we find that if you practically, if it's just one user using a bunch, it's unlikely to run out if you have a organization license. If that happens, you can add on to get more flow runs.
Yeah, we haven't enabled Flow yet for other reasons, but it's just one of the things that we're considering.
Got it.
It's a question that we have.
Got it. Sure.
I have two questions. The example that you showed a few minutes ago about exporting a package and importing it to another environment.
Sure.
Does that import flows?
Yes. And in fact, that actually, in my example here, I have a flow within my application. So if I go to this application here, and I was to go export it again, so it actually has this flow, which is the send out my meeting notes flow, which actually was imported into this environment at the same time of the app. So this was the flow that came along with that. And from the flow experience too, you can also export flows directly through their experience. You click on the flow and you can go and export it.
And the partial commandlets that you showed that are coming out next week?
Yeah, I'm working on them right now. I'll be publishing kind of an unofficial blog that says here's where they are. I'll be publishing that to PowerApps.com next week.
Will they have the ability to kind of, when you import the package, to say what connections to use? Or does it still have to, somebody has to go to the admin center in the new environment and configure that?
So that's actually in my script here, what I actually did. Admittedly, I hand wave over this part a little bit, was that I actually specify the connection ID that I use. So as a part of the package is that you will have to specify the IDs of the resources if you want to select them. So for example, those connections. Now, one thing that is coming, and this is what I alluded to earlier, is that the ability during import to create these connections automatically behind the scenes if you don't want to reuse a connection that's already there. But you will have to reference the specific connection. Or for example, if I was updating an app or flow, instead of creating a net new one, I would have to specify the IDs for those as well. And so what I'm also documenting here, and I'll have kind of a sample script, is how you go about doing that. Because you'll essentially have to list the connections first, and then select the one and pass the appropriate ID for that during the import call.
Does it work the same way for custom connectors?
So custom connectors today, yes. Today, during import, you can only select an existing connector. It has to be deployed there. When we add the capability of actually exporting and recreating the connector, then you can just do it as a part of this process. But today, you would have to do the same thing, which is if I had a custom connector here, I would have to specify essentially the resource ID for the custom connector and import. When that app is imported or flow is imported, that ID is what we bind to the app so it knows to use the right connector.
Thank you.
Sure.
In the scenario, if I create an app, a Power App, and I package it, and then I take that package and sell it to another tenant,
Yes.
what security can I put in place to keep them from repackaging it and selling it?
Yes. So the idea of having like more of a managed package today is something we don't support yet. I know it is something that's especially applicable in the ISV world. It's something we've definitely is on our backlog, and I think as we expand these packaging capabilities, especially to support an ISV community, especially when we allow you to publish your solution as an app source and allow people to deploy there, we have to support that. So it's not coming, it's not here yet, but it's definitely something that we're working towards supporting.
Is there any workaround that you could recommend?
There's not a way of doing that today. All of these packages are effectively unmanaged packages today. So unfortunately, yeah.
The one thing I can suggest there is if you want to put your logic behind a custom connector, that is something that you will own because then the service will be running, the service logic
That's
will
true.
be on your side. The app itself will be deployed in a customer tenant and they can
Yes.
just open it and use it.
That's right. So like that, everything that has to do with the presentation layer or the logic within the app comes along with deploying that app. So yeah.
Hi, in a team development environment, is there any way to like merge multiple apps into one app easily?
What kind of scenario are you considering?
I have like a complex application, like there are like 5 developers developing different screens. I want to like merge them to one app.
As a part of the import process or?
Like as a part of implementation, right? I have like a team of 5 developers.
Got it.
And each one of them are developing different screens.
Gotcha.
Because in PowerApps there is no co-authoring kind of feature, right?
That's correct. So
So-
yeah, you can only have one authoring session open at a time,
So
yes.
Now let's say I have like 5 people developing 5 different screens. I want to merge into one app.
Gotcha.
Final output.
And have 5 different people working at the same time against the app? That's interesting. Yeah, so we don't have that capability today, but it's very interesting. I think it is, I don't think it's something that we're going to support, like, I'd say anytime real soon, but because right now what we have is we have kind of like the old Excel model, which is if someone has a session, it essentially locks the application.
For the merge functionality, we officially don't support it, but you should talk to Mary offline. He can give you scripts to do that.
As well as there is a workaround for it.
Very unofficial scripts.
There is a workaround for it. Is open up the other Power Apps in a different remote machine, and you can copy paste screens from one to another.
You can copy the screen as it is.
Yeah, all the controls on a screen directly, but it has to be in 2 different machines there.
At the control level or the screen level? Can I
Screen, all the controls of a screen. So you need to add the screen first, copy all the Control A, Control C, Control V.
Sounds good.
Cool, sure.
This is more of a generic question. If I want to deploy an app, can I create a tablet and a phone app? If I want to deploy an app on a tablet and a phone, I'm creating 2 separate apps at this point,
Correct.
right?
Yes. The ability to have either a responsive design that supports both today, or just flipping the mode is not easy to do today because essentially it's bound, it's part of building the app, you build it within a specific aspect ratio. So that's not supported, but responsive layouts is something that I think is one of the top asks that I've heard so far today, and I know that it's something that we're considering and working on.
So how does that look from a user perspective if I deploy a tablet app and they pull that up in the mobile app?
It will actually just work.
Yeah.
So the app runs still, even though you design it for maybe tablet form factor or phone form factor, it will run on all platforms.
Okay.
So across web and mobile, it's just that, on the phone case, you then, need to rotate it and, you might get some black bars. Same if you run a phone app, it will work just fine on the web or tablet, but you'll get kind of like the black side.
Yeah, so if it's a phone app on a desktop, I'll just have that smaller screen, but it actually will work on all these devices.
There is a pattern there. There is a pattern there as well which customers have used. Because you can open up one Power Apps from another, is in your phone app provide the link to your tablet app, and in your tablet app provide the link to the phone app, and let them choose if they are in a different mode. Down the line, we are also going to give an ability from a script or from a function. You can determine whether you're on a tablet layout or a phone layout, and you can change the screen layout or open up the other app instead. Right now, you'll have to give the user the ability to do it manually. But there is a pattern.
In that case, they would see 2 apps on their phone.
They will see 2 apps. And
That's
in
right.
both the apps, you may give the first screen as the choice. Do you want to jump to the other app instead? And that's something you can build in.
Or you can name accordingly.
That's right.
So like data with SharePoint web part, is it going to be responsive?
If you can, otherwise we'll repeat the question.
I'm just sorry, I couldn't hear the question.
The question is simple, so I think towards the end of this year, SharePoint web part is coming for PowerApps, right? That web part is going to be responsive.
No, it's not.
It's not going
The web part is just our web player that's running the application, right? So essentially, once we support a responsive design for building Power Apps, it will be supported in all of our players. So the web part is just around embedding the apps that you can build today with those fixed aspect ratios.
So to be fair with the SharePoint form scenario, if you have seen, we have done deep integration with SharePoint. What they do is they query the size of the app, and they actually embed it within the right size window. So by default, you embed a phone app or a tablet app, it just looks right because the window, the frame is of the same size.
Right.
You can do similar things with the web part, right? You embed it with the right size frame, but the app itself is not as well. You put a phone app there, and in a landscape style window, it would still have that part.
But adjusting the viewport is not responsive design. It's so.
That was the question people asked in the booth as well. What if I do a tablet versus phone? How would it look within a form? Within a form, that's a trick the SharePoint sort of does as they're embedding it.
Another question, like I also see a bit of lag when the player loads, right? So time to improve performance.
So yeah, the question was some lag when loading the app. So I can definitely tell you that 50% of all of our developer resources over the past 6 months has been dedicated on performance and nothing but, which, by the way, sucks from a product manager point of view, let me tell you. And if you have been using both the studio and the web players over the past, say, 3 or 4 months, there's been market improvements. And so it is the top thing that we are working on. Yeah. And it's not great yet, admittedly, but we have made a lot of improvements.
You mentioned that the players are environment transparent, or you can't really tell. How do you know if you're doing, like, if you have a UAT environment versus the prod environment, and you've got 2 versions of the same app that, one's already been deployed to prod, but you're working on the next iteration? How can you tell the 2 versions of the same app? So
what you can where environments do show up is within our website. So within web.powerapps.com, you do have visibility into your environments that you have access to. It's just within the consumption experience of the players that isn't visible. I believe if you go to the...
We still show the name of the environment there.
Yes. So if you go to the details of the application, though, here, let me just go here.
No, it's shown as a subtitle. It's not shown as the main title. You can still refer.
So here you go. So my 2 apps here, my UAT app and production, you see underneath it still has my old name here. So Tenant Monkey account is like a tool I use to create the tenants. It's called Tenant Monkey. I think it's pretty funny. The Ignite Demo UAT and Ignite Demo Production are the names of the environment. So it showed on the app, but what I was trying to say is that it's not like your view of the player is filtered by environment like the web portal experience or our studio is. Yeah.
Home.dynamics are also similar.
Yes, that's true too. Which is where you can go to view on the web, can view all the apps that you can play as well. .dynamics.com. Cool.
Yeah, it's not projected.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to log in first and then spare you all the... Cool. So all of this is across environments as well, here as well. Okay. Yes, and you can filter by environment here. So if I wanted to filter, for example, just for my UAT or demo environment, I can do that here. Okay, but it's not available on our clients yet. Cool. Any other questions? Thank you, everyone.